good afternoon. Since morning, you have listened a lot. ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆಯಿಂದ ತುಂಬಾ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀರಾ. I know your situation. And that too, my presentation is on philosophy. We are all philosophers. The reason why I am telling you is, if I ask a question to you, you start introspecting yourself, you start claiming yourself as philosopher. Just a small question. What is life? If somebody asks you, you start thinking and you give a different definition to the life. So that is my question also. Before telling anything regarding this paper or regarding the content which I have brought for you, which has been prepared by UGC. So before knowing those aspects, it is very essential to know what we know first about our philosophy, what we know about the ethics. So can you tell me the answer? What is life?
Life is our experience.
Life is experience.
Present moment.
Present moment. What we live in the present is a life. Very good. This is a workshop. So everybody has to participate actively. Unless you reflect yourself, you will not be in a position to know that what you know. So knowing is itself a philosophy. Please, no answer can be right or wrong. It's your individual perception. Yes. Life is a unexpected thing, full of unexpected things. Yes. ಮತ್ತೆ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೂ ಹೇಳಿ. ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕನ್ನಡದವರು ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲೇ ಮಾತಾಡೋದು. Yes. Life is a beautiful struggle. Wow. That aesthetic sense, what you are telling, beautiful, is also philosophy. Very good. Next. And somebody has told it's a full of expectations or unexpected things which you are expecting. So expecting the things is nothing but hypothesizing. So hypothesis is a part of research. So that is also philosophy. Very good. Any other? Yes?
Life is what you make.
Life is what?
What you make it.
Yes. That's what life is. What I make. What I feel. How wanted it would be. So that will be decided by myself. Yes. Gaining knowledge. Very good. Life is nothing but knowing the things. Understanding the different perspectives. So knowledge element is also philosophy. Yes?
Struggle is the meaning of life.
Struggle.
Yes.
Yes. Life is a struggle. Lot of competencies are required to struggle in the life. Lot of determination is required in the life. Lot of possibilities have to be thought of. And lot of positives must be taken from those things. So that's what life is. So these are all the things which naturally we do in our lives. ಇವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಲೈಫಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಇದೀವಿ. ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಇದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿನೇ. ಇದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿನೇ. Then the question arises, why do we need to understand philosophy? When we already having philosophical elements, when we already think in a philosophical base. One of the important aspects I would like to tell you, till post-graduation, a learner learns many things, right? Right from kindergarten to master's level. We will become masters in that particular domain or in subject. So after that, there is one more course, one more program, that is doctorate, PhD, right? So till masters, that philosophical element PH is not added. It's just MA, MSc, MCom, MBA, right? Just masters. Why the philosophical element is added in the research? Next slide. So that's all. You study anything, you do research in any of the field, the highest degree, right, is PhD. The term is same for all the faculties. Either you do research in science, or in social science, or in language, or in other space, education. So that is the PhD. Why that philosophy element is added in the doctorate course is a question to be asked by ourselves. Now PhD ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿರೋದು ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲ್ಲ ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಸರಿ ಯಾಕೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಅಂತಾನೆ ಅಂತಾರೆ ಅಂತ. ಡಾಕ್ಟರೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಆರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಡಾಕ್ಟರೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಎಜುಕೇಶನ್ ಅನ್ಬೋದಾಗಿತ್ತಲ್ಲ. Why philosophy is being included in that? Can anybody answer? What could be the reason? Yes.
Without philosophy, there is no meaning in education.
Yeah. How do you justify it? Exactly. Without philosophy, there is no meaning at all in gaining the degrees. How do you justify that? Here is the main element of philosophy. We come into the picture.
The philosophy is related to morality.
Yes, very good. Philosophy is very much related to the morality. And in the morning session, both the scholars have talked about that. Ethical elements, right? Whatever we do, we follow the ethical elements. What is ethics? Ethics is nothing but the right or wrong things. If you do it in a right manner, yes, it's ethical. If you do it in a wrong manner, that is unethical, right? In a very simple manner, I'm telling you. If we follow those ethical elements, the ethical elements in doing research, then our research process would be good. So how to decide it? Yes, there are a lot of norms which have been prescribed by the philosophers, educationists, and social thinkers. So that's how we have to understand the basic element of philosophy in doing research work. Unless you think it, you cannot perform better. Sometimes we do the mistakes knowingly or unknowingly. So the philosophy is expecting from all the research scholars that we need to follow the rules and regulations very rigorously. That is the consciousness of a mind. When you are doing something, you should do it in a conscious manner. If your conscience permits it, then it's a philosophy. That's a good ethics. So these are the elements, are the basic things in understanding the philosophy for doing a doctorate degree. And again question comes, why UGC has thought of introducing research and publication ethics for the coursework in PhD degrees? ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಇರಲಿಲ್ವಾ? All these days, whether the researchers who have completed their PhDs have not followed those ethical rules is a question. Or else, they might have done some unintentionally mistakes by not knowing the rules and regulations properly. That could be the reason. And hence UGC might have thought that at least in the coursework, there must be a clear guidelines for all the scholars who are doing research in different fields. When they come to know the different aspects of ethical things, definitely they may go for conducting good research works by maintaining those standards. Hence UGC thought of introducing this paper in coursework. Got the idea? Hope you are perceiving it. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? ಇಷ್ಟು ದಿನ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕಿಲ್ಲ, ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲಾರ್ದೇ ತಪ್ಪುಗಳಾಗಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ PhD ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ರಿಸರ್ಚರ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಈ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಬೇಕು. On what basis they are selecting the problem, what made them to select it is an important element, and how best they are going to help the society through their research findings is an important aspect. So these things of ethical aspects are very important in understanding the philosophy. I quote another example. What is philosophy then? The two comparisons I make, one is Rajinikanth and Amitabh Bachchan. Hope you all know how Rajini will be in his dress code when he attends numerous functions and how Amitabh Bachchan will be. Can you compare? That's what philosophy is. One may think that the external appearance is not important, internal element is important. That's his philosophy. And the other man can think that no, it's not just internal, both external element is also very important. That's how we behave. That's the philosophy which makes us to behave in a different manner. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? ಎರಡು ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿಗಳ ಎರಡು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಅದು ತಪ್ಪು ಸರಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬರ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲೂ ಅವರ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿಗಳ ಡ್ರೈವಿಂಗ್ ಫೋರ್ಸಸ್. ಕೆಲವರು ರಾಜ್ಕುಮಾರ್ ಇದ್ದಂಗೆ ಇರಬೇಕು ಅಂತಾರೆ ಪಂಚಾಯತ್ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಆಗಿ ವಯಸ್ಸಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ. ಕೆಲವರು ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾವು ವಯಸ್ಸಾದ್ರೂ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ ಸೂಟ್ ಊಟ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಹಾಗೇನೆ ಕಾಣಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಅದು. ನಾವು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸಿಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವೋ ನಮ್ಮ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಅದರ ಹಿಂದಿದೆ. Philosophy is the driving force to do all kinds of activities in the life. So that's the reason why the philosophical elements are very important to be understood by the researchers. Okay? And the very next thing comes actually. What is research? Why this philosophical element has been included in the research? What we do in research? What is the main element of research? Research act ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Yes, you have already started your coursework. What is the intention of research? Why you are doing research work? Skip. Another slide. Go to the earlier. Go to the earlier slide. Yes, please. You should answer. Otherwise, it will be a seminar or a conference. Unless you reflect on your ideas, you will not come to know. And every question of mine will be helpful for you in understanding your research work. You can write a better thesis by understanding these things. You can write a good proposal by understanding these things. Yes, what made you to choose or what made you to go to the PhD course or PhD work? Why you are choosing it? Reinvestigating the things. Yes. Next, which means you want to find out something new. Or else something has been done in the area and you want to reinvestigate it to check whether the findings are correct or not. That is one aspect. Yes.
To find solution for some problem.
Yes. To find the solutions. Yes. Life is full of problems. Universe is having full of problems, and every problem of that universe has to be solved. Hence you are taking a research book. Very good. Next.
To analyze the existing things.
Yes, to analyze the existing things. Why they are like that. Isn't it? Very good. Next. Yes?
It is experimentation.
Yes. You want to experiment something. You want to try out something new and give your findings in terms of writings, in terms of suggestions. Very good. Next.
Build and develop knowledge.
Yes?
To develop knowledge.
Yes, to develop the knowledge. Exactly. Exactly. From every research work, a new knowledge will be accumulated, developed, contributed. Hence you are doing your research work. Either you do it in India or in America or in other country. We cite all those research findings. Am I right? The whole world is open now. Which means you are not doing research only for yourself, right? That's the first thing we should understand. Of course, you may get a degree, you may get a certificate, you may get a job. Fine thing, yes. But the second important thing is you are doing research for all these things. You want to identify something, you want to find out something, you want to give a new knowledge to the society or the entire mankind. You want to solve the problems, right? You want to verify something. Yes? Somebody was telling something. Yes.
Answer the questions.
Answering the questions. Yes. There are a lot of questions in the universe. Why people are like that? Why people behave like that in a particular situation is a question. Why children are becoming more aggressive when they use more ICT devices like mobile phones? It's a question. Someone has to get the response for that. Someone has to do research on that. Right? Why students are believing less with their teachers nowadays? They believe more on internet. They believe more on devices than the teachers. Why it's happening? It's a big question. And we have to find the answer for that. Isn't it? And recently we had a COVID. Almost all we have taken the vaccines. There may be somebody who has worked a lot on finding a vaccine for that. Maybe a group of members, group of scientists, they have also done the research. Not for only themselves, it's for the entire mankind, right? That is also research. So these are the aspects, we call them as the ethical aspects. It's not just me who is important, it is the whole world. It is the society. And I have to do something for them also. So these elements have to be considered in the research. So that's what, next slide. Next come to the research, as all told that, yes, it is a curiosity and self-driven activities which are basically required to do the research. And we do a lot of investigations for that. How we do? We do in a very creative manner. Of course, same problem can be taken in India and America, but the way they do is different. The way they do is different. Hence, every individual does the investigation in a very creative manner. And that creative investigation will lead to the production of some kind of a knowledge. Some kind of a knowledge. Covaxin, Covishield, two important words we have come across in the last 2 years. And we know that if you take any one of the vaccine at least, we could survive very easily. Right? This is the new knowledge we got. And earlier to that, we didn't know about the vaccine or the virus. See how changes takes place. And next is, I always, whatever we do, that is related to philosophy or matter. Matter means anything which is there in the universe. Prapanchadalli ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲವೂ matter. Kurchi, table, now our existence is also matter. Either it may be physical or spiritual. Physical, we can touch, we can sense with the sense organs. But spiritual, that can also be sensed, but cannot be depicted, cannot be shown to others. Like God. We say there is a God in the universe. It's a matter. But it comes under the spiritual aspect. We say there is a goodness in that human being. How to evaluate it? How to touch it? How to feel it? It's a matter. So like that, both physics, philosophy and matter, or anything which is there in the universe, can be assessed, can be investigated, can be perceived. It all comes under the research. And whatever the research scholar does through the research work, he will be the or she will be the owner of that particular content. If you are doing research, you will own the content. It may be knowledge, it may be any experiment you conduct, or it may be any solution to a problem. Okay, nowadays we are talking about patents also. Whatever we gain out of our research work, we can claim the patent on that. But this will happen only in sciences most of the time. In social sciences, literature and languages, we won't be having that kind of a patent. But when I write something on my research work, that element is somebody using, that knowledge is somebody using, somebody is referring, means they have to mention my name. They have to cite my name. So that credit has to go to the person who has developed it, who has extracted it, who has found out it. ಅರ್ಥಾಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? ವಿಷಯ ವಸ್ತು ಸಂಶೋಧನೆ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಯಾರು ಏನೇ ಬರಲಿ ಆ ಕ್ರೆಡಿಟ್ ಆ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ಇದೆ. It is also a philosophy that if somebody has found something, means the credit must go to that person. That is what the publication ethics is. You will learn many things in that. Next. Yes, philosophy, the basic philosophy of human learning is nothing but, that's what we told already. The more we know, we get to know what we still do not know. That's what in the morning session both the scholars were talking about. When we learn new things, we will come to know that there are many things still I don't know. And rightly Aristotle and Einstein also stated that. See, what they told, Aristotle states that the more you know, you don't know. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಜ್ಞಾನಕ್ಕೆ ಅಹಂ ಇರಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಹೆಚ್ಚೆಚ್ಚು ಓದ್ಕೊಂಡಷ್ಟು, ಹೆಚ್ಚೆಚ್ಚು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡಷ್ಟು ಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಳಾಗಬೇಕು. ಜ್ಞಾನಿಗಳಾದಾಗ ಆ ಈಗೋ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. Egoistic nature ಹೋಗಬೇಕು. When we learn more things, try to reduce, or there must be a reduction of egoistic element. Because we will come to know that there are a lot of things still I don't know. And Einstein says that the more I learn, the more I realize how much I know. This is what the philosophy is. This is what the philosophy is. This is what the ethics is. They are saying ethically that still they don't know many things. And the research element, the final goal of research is the responsibility of a researcher to give best to the society. Your findings must reach the society. How best your research findings will be helpful for improving the quality of life of the society. So that is what the important thing. And research and ethics, they go hand in hand. You cannot separate research with ethics. Research and ನೈತಿಕತೆನ ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೈಯೆಸ್ಟ್ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ತಗೋತಾ ಇರೋದೇ ನೀವು ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ರಿಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಹೈಯೆಸ್ಟ್ ಡಿಗ್ರಿ ತಗೋತಾ ಇರೋದೇ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್ಗೆ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಹೊಸದಾಗಿ ಕೊಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಟ್ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಫೈಂಡ್ ಔಟ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ನ್ಯೂ ಆರ್ ದ ಟ್ರೂತ್, isn't it? You can extract few truths through your research, but that has to be done with ethical behavior. ಸತ್ಯವನ್ನ ಅನ್ವೇಷಣೆ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೇನು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರಿ, ಆ ಸತ್ಯವನ್ನ ಎಥಿಕಲ್ ಬಿಹೇವಿಯರ್ ಇಂದ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸುಳ್ಳು ಹೇಳಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ, ಸುಳ್ಳನ್ನ ಹೇಳಿ ಸತ್ಯ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. We cannot do that. So whatever principles are there, norms have been fixed, we have to follow them to extract a knowledge, to give a knowledge, to find out a truth. So truth is also a valuable element. That is also philosophy. Because universally it has been accepted that truth is a virtue. Right? ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸತ್ಯ ಮಾತಾಡಬೇಕು, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಸತ್ಯವನ್ನ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ವರ್ಚು. It is universally accepted. Next. And few of the important things we should also know that many of the earlier researchers, they have found something new, and you want to continue that research work in continuation with the earlier findings, right? That's the reason why we cite the research findings of earlier researchers. I feel that they might have done the wrong things, or some error has been occurred in their research findings. What you do? ಹಿಂದೆ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆ ಎಲ್ಲೋ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ಫೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ತಪ್ಪಾಗಿದೆ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಸೈಟಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ದ ಸೋ ಅಂಡ್ ಸೋ ರಿಸರ್ಚರ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಡನ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್ ಆರ್ ಫೌಂಡ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್. But the rationality is always knowledge can be developed based on the context. Based on the context. We know that actually. Sun is the center of universe, right? Earlier to that, one of the scientists who found and said that Earth is the center and Sun is revolving it, right? At that point of time, he was right. But later, when again researchers were conducted, they could realize that no, it is not the Earth, it is Sun. And you cannot claim that. Of course, the earlier finding may be wrong. How it could be wrong? The researcher could have been analyzed that particular perspective based on the knowledge Now we are saying that it was wrong actually, but still we should have an open-mindedness in saying that based on the earlier experiences and available data what they had extracted and found that the earth was set. So this kind of open-mindedness, analytical ability must have among the researchers, so that they can claim their finding, they can interpret it in a clear manner, as well as respecting the earlier researchers' findings. This is what the philosophy is. This is what the ethics is. ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗ್ತಿದೆಯಾ? ಹಿಂದಿನವರು ಎಲ್ಲ ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ನಾನೇ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅನ್ನೋದಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇದು ರಾಂಗ್ ಇದೆ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ. ಹಿಂಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಾರ್ದು. ಅದು ತಪ್ಪಿದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಯಾಕೆ ತಪ್ಪಿತ್ತು ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಜಸ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಕೊಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೇಳೋದಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಓಪನ್ ಮೈಂಡೆಡ್ನೆಸ್ ಬೇಕು, ಆ ಜಾಣತನ ಬೇಕು, ಆ ಒಳ್ಳೆತನ ಬೇಕು. ಓಕೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್. And the very important thing in research actually, why do we need to use the ethical element? Ethical element will teach us, will tell us, will make us to understand the right things and wrong things. As in the morning presentations, Professor Talwar was telling actually that most of the time, 99% of the researchers, when they meet their guides in the initial stage, they used to ask a simple question, or if a guide asks them actually, what kind of area you have selected? Most of the time, the students or the research scholars say that, sir, whatever area you do, I am ready to do in that area. I am ready to take that particular problem. This is itself a wrong way of selecting a problem. It is itself a wrong way of selecting problem. The reason why is, when I am doing my research, I should perceive it properly. I should be clear in understanding the area of research, and I should tell clearly that for what reasons I have taken that particular problem, and how best my research findings would be beneficial for the society, beneficial for the entire mankind, not the guide. So based on your views and conclusions, the guide will decide whether to go with that problem or not. Understanding it? Many of the times to boost ourselves actually ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಿ, ಸರ್ ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಸರ್, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಏರಿಯಾನೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಏರಿಯಾ, ಯುವರ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಇಸ್ ಅವರ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಸರ್, ಯು ಗಿವ್ ಎನಿ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಸರ್, ಐ ಡೂ ದ ರಿಸರ್ಚ್. ನೋ, ದಿಸ್ ಈಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ unethical. We should not do it. That is the one small thing I am telling you. Yes, sir. And the ethics will guide us doing the right things in every aspect of research. I'll take examples also where such things will happen. Right? This is the one aspect in selecting the problem. Okay? And even sometimes we talk actually why ethics is required in science. When we do very systematically, right? When we do rationally in science, why ethics is required? Ethics is based for doing systematically. Ethics is based for science. Whatever we do rationally, whatever experiments we conduct, but some kind of ethical elements must be there. That's the reason why I told, if you are going for finding out any vaccine, inventing any vaccine means to whom it is useful actually. It is useful for the society and the people. That is the ethical element. So always, how best my research findings or the product will be useful for the society, will be useful for solving the problems of the society, will be useful to trace out something, to find the truth, must be the important element of research. So that's the reason why ethics is always based for science. Always based. That must be. You cannot succeed in science without ethics. If you remove the ethical element, there will be no science at all. Doing it in a systematic way is itself ethics. Science says that. Whatever we do it in a very systematic manner. What is that? That is an ethical element. If you are not doing systematically, then you are doing it in a wrong manner. Yes, so codification of ethics of science is practice. So that practice has to be adopted in all the activities of research work. And there are few important things that every researcher must ask himself or herself. ನೀವು ಸಂಶೋಧನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಥವಾ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊರಟಿದ್ದೀರಿ ಅಂದರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ನೀವು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಕೇಳ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. And Williams has told in 2003 only. What questions are need to be asked by ourselves? First one, what moral principle guide your research? Why you are doing it? Only for PhD? Only to add TR as a prefix? Why you are doing it? What moral principle is guiding? The second important thing, how do ethical issues influence your selection of a research problem? That's what I told. How ethical you are in selecting your research problem. How sound you are in selecting by adopting all those ethical issues. How do ethical issues affect how to conduct your research? It may be in terms of design, sampling procedure, and so on. How you are going to select a sample. How you are going to select the apt design for your research. Is it a survey? Is it an experiment? Is it a cross-sectional? Is it a text analysis? Is it a qualitative? Is it a quantitative? What kind of a design you are going to use? So that justification must be there by applying the ethical aspect. Next, what is the responsibility towards your research subjects? From whom you are getting the information? Respondents. If you are doing in science, you do it on materials. Chemistry, research scholars will do on chemicals, isn't it? Physics, research scholars will do on different things. But in social sciences, in education, they do it on human beings. What is your responsibility? So that's the important. And, for example, do you have their informed consent to participate in your project? Have you taken the consent? Think that I am giving a tool to you, questionnaire. Questionnaire I am giving after my presentation to know about the effectiveness of my teaching. Very simple thing. I collect all your responses, and if I use that response in writing any article or publishing something on that, means I should inform you that I am using your responses. If you are telling them properly, then it's ethical. If you are using your data without telling it, without informing, that is unethical. That's all. When you are making use of the respondents in your research work, you should be able to tell them clearly that for what reason you are collecting the data, and that data where you can use it. Is it only for writing thesis? Is it only for writing articles or somewhere?
Sorry, excuse me.
Yes.
It won't become biased, sir. Yes. If we inform them previously, then there is a chance for bias.
Before informing, collect the data, then you ask the permission. It's not that before giving the tool you are giving them actually. Yes, some kind of biases may come into the picture actually. That biasness may interfere, isn't it, in giving the right responses. For example, simple illustration I'll go to. Think that if I ask you a question, how many girlfriends you have, bar how many boyfriends you have? Simple question. Just one response. Some may say 2, 1, 0 or anything actually. If I use your response in giving awareness or passing that information to your family members, what happens? Just simple example I am telling you. This is what unethical is. This is what unethical is. So when we are collecting the data for a particular reason, we should use it for that aspect only. That too by taking a consent. If you are using it without consent, that is unethical. This is what the ethics is. Most of the time the researchers do that actually. They use that data for many reasons actually. Okay? So that is the one aspect. Then what ethical issues or dilemmas might come into play in deciding what research findings to publish. That's what the research finding is. If I compare the research scholars' attitude towards use of mobile phone of Mangalore University and University. Just an example. Think that the University research scholars may have negative attitude regarding mobile phone. At Mangalore University, research scholars having positive attitude. If I publish it, what could be the finding, what could be the error, or you can say the different contexts we can give. It may give different repercussions. So like that, wherever it is possible, try to take the consent of the respondents. That's all. And will your research directly benefit those who participate in the study? Of course, you are collecting the data from different respondents. How that element is helping them, in what way it is useful for them. And many of the times in social sciences especially, in acknowledgement, you find the acknowledgement in the preliminary pages of thesis. They never thank the respondents. You just open different theses. They never say thanks to the respondents who have provided responses to the research. This is what unethical is. When you take help from anybody in doing your research, try to mention their names. Try to mention those respondents. This is our thing nodi ನೀವು acknowledgement thing nodi. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ thanks ಹೇಳಿರ್ತೀವಿ. We used to thank our dean, vice chancellor, registrar. Don't know whether they have helped or not, but we take those ones actually. And all the faculty members, we miss those who are really contributed in conducting your research. So that is a very important element, a small element, but try to describe, try to express your feelings. So acknowledgement chapter is yours. Nobody will guide you actually, nobody will tell you to whom you want to mention and to whom you want to not mention. It's your area. Next. And based on that actually, these things will be very important for us in deciding the ethical elements. Yes, choosing the topic of research literature, survey and framing the research questions, ethics will come into picture. Try to cite the genuine authors. Try to cite the genuine researchers who have really contributed in your field. That's what we do in literature survey, isn't it? But no discrimination at all. You have to mention every scholar, every researcher who has done or has contributed towards your field. Second thing, choosing the research design, the ethical element will help us. Methodology and constructing the tools also. How must be the questions in the tool? Are they biased? Are they straightforward or what? So that has to be decided by ethical element. Responsibilities towards the participants of research. Ethical element will come into picture. Data collection, data storage. Sometimes even storage of data is also very important, because if you store your data in others' laptop, means that person can make use of that data. So don't share your data with others. So unless you rely. So that data may be tampered and articles may be written on that. So data storage, data collection, and most of the time we do tampering with the data. For example, again, think that I am comparing two groups, their academic achievements. One group is stand high and another group is low. What I do? I want to favor this group. I reduce the numbers of this group and I increase the number of the other group. So that's what the tampering is. And sometimes we tamper the individual scores as well. So no tampering at all. Don't play with the data. That is itself a ethical element. So whatever data you get, either you accept it, reject it, you find it more, you find it less, no issues at all. The same thing has to be analyzed and we should present the data in the form of findings. Even many of the chemical scientists actually, the researchers who are doing chemical combinations and a lot of titrations, they do this actually. Actually the titration has to be completed within the 3 hours, but they go it for 4th hour, 5th hour sometimes, knowingly or unknowingly. And they take the readings and say that this is what the finding is. So this is also one ethical aspect. And sometimes without doing any titration, they write the results based on the previous results. So in every research activity, such kind of tampering is possible, but we should not do it. We should not do it. And even the analysis of the data also. That's the example I told. When we analyze the things, according to my wish, according to my perception, I analyze it. No. That objectivity has to be maintained in analysis of data. Whatever data you get, you extract it, analyze it, and present your findings. Don't do any tampering in your findings. Okay, so personal biasness must be reduced or totally removed. Biasness barbar actually. And the responsibilities towards the community and society. How best my research findings would be helpful for the society or a particular community if you are doing on that. And which is the subject area of your research, informing the participant population of the research findings. If you got any findings related to a particular group, inform them that what is the status they are in. If you are conducting a study on the reading ability of research scholars of Mangalore University, for example, after finding you should tell them a particular research scholar group how many hours they are reading in a day and where they are reading. Are they reading in the library or through mobile phone or through websites? How many hours of time they are spending? So this kind of the facilitating the respondents is needed. And narrating and presenting the findings. How best to narrate, how best to present the findings. Again, it must be based on ethical things and publishing the research. Nowadays, we find mushrooming of online journals. Isn't it? You pay more, your article will be published within 24 hours, 8 hours, 6 hours, instantly. We find such journals also. You send the article with the prescribed fee, they'll publish in an hour. So we call them as the predatory journals. So that will be a special session for you. So publishing the research also requires a lot of ethical aspects. Unless you feel it, unless you understand it, unless you give yourself with your proper view, you should not publish it. Because every publication requires a thorough understanding from the researcher's point of view. You must be able to tell very clearly what you want to tell. Yes? And why philosophy is important? Just I'll go through just 1 or 2 slides, then we shall go for a break. Why philosophy is important in research? Because I'm going to deal with the philosophy only. And you believe me, understanding philosophy is not easy. Teaching philosophy is very difficult. And what about applying it? Is very hard to do that. We say truth is universal. Always we should talk truth. Shall we apply it? We say that normally, and we have heard it, we have listened it from many people, we have seen also many people follow it also. But what about us? Are we practicing it? It's a very, very big deal. So like that, philosophy can be listened, philosophy can be seen, philosophy can be written also actually by referring few books. But practicing is very important. That's what we say, having philosophy, doing philosophy. We are all philosophers, that's what I told. We have our own philosophy, but how best I practice it is important. So practicing is ethical element. So in these workshops, we will make you to understand the ethical set of rules. What to do, what not to do. So by understanding that, if you apply them in your research works, different phases, definitely that will be going to help you. Okay? And as who only told that? Philosophy will help us to solve the problem. Yes, the whole universe is full of problems. Idi prapanchadalli ellodru samasye ide. Many of you told that actually life is full of problems. Yes, definitely. But to analyze it, where the problem is coming from, how it has evolved, and how to analyze it, what remedial measures I should give it to you, is the base of philosophy. Isn't it? You can also esto heltinu enant heli tit for tat. Basic philosophy, correct? Nee nanage kettadu madre, nanu ninage kettadu madre. If you hit me, I will also hit you. But there may be few people, there very different. If you hit me, I'll show you another cheek. Correct? ಗಾಂಧಿ ಅದೇ ಇತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಒಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಹೊಡೆದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ ಕಡೆ ಹೊಡಿರಿ ಅಂತ. ಅದು ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿನೇ, ತಪ್ಪು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ ವಿಲ್ ರೂಲ್ ದ ವರ್ಲ್ಡ್. So ಹಾಗಾಗಿ to analyze the concept, definition, argument and even problems, the philosophy will help us in the research work, and it contributes to the capacity of an individual. We may come across different problems in the life, but how we handle it is important. So handling capacity will be given by your philosophy. Many of the times we say problems are part of life, so we need to adjust. That adjustment is itself a philosophy. If you adjust well with the problems, with the situations, you survive better. So that analysis ability and improving the capacity of an individual will be helpful or will be provided by the philosophy. And this philosophy will help us in research for both distinguishing and finding out the similarities also. Think that the two researchers have conducted research in your area, and both of them told that yes, it is right. You take their views and you say that both the researchers have conducted in the same area and both have opined that they are correct. One thing. But many of the times you find differences also. One has told that it is right and other researcher has told that it is wrong. In that case, what you do, you take the perceptions and findings of both the individuals and you add your own and try to find out the similarities also between those two researchers' findings. Understanding it? So philosophy will help us in research in comparing as well as finding out the similarities, which we do in review of related literature chapter. That's the reason why we go for comprehensive reviews. Some 30-40 reviews we collect, and in that you can consider few reviews for comparing the things and few reviews for finding out the similarities. That is very important. And even the philosophy will help us in synthesizing a variety of views also. Think that variety of scholars have given variety of views. So in synthesizing that also, the philosophy will help us. That's the first thing. And the second important thing is research and analysis and methods. The philosophy will help us in analyzing the research designs and research methods also, which will help us in interpreting the texts, which will help us interpreting the concepts and even reasoning of others. What others have thought of it. Why the other researcher has given the findings in that fashion. What could made him to present the findings in such manner can also be analyzed. So that is what the philosophical element which will help us, which means reasoning is also part of philosophy. Understanding it? Reasoning is also part of philosophy. And most of the time we think that of course it's a part of science. Fine. So science has got a base of philosophy. So that's such kind of a linkages we find, and even guessing the things, that is hypothesizing. What happens if I produce the results on this? What would be useful if I give my findings in that fashion? So that is what hypothesizing and putting the problems into manageable form. Can I manage with these problems? Can I manage my research with having so problems? So such problems can also be managed with the philosophical bent of mind, and even selection of pertinent information, organization, communication of the complex ideas can also be handled well with the help of philosophy. And the new things, what would be given through our findings based on the hypothesis and objectives, will be definitely useful or used by the next generation people. Now, you decide whatever research you do, that research finding would be definitely useful or used by the next generation people. Don't think that you are doing only for yourself, because you are generating a new idea, you are generating a new knowledge which will be useful for the entire universe. And third important, persuasion. Always philosophy will encourage and influence every research scholar to do good things, to do it in a right manner, to to take it a position in your writings, to make clear interpretations. So that is how the analysis ability will be promoted or supported or encouraged by your philosophy, so that you can give good arguments. You can give good arguments. In thesis, we produce a lot of arguments because of the findings, why this finding has elicited based on what reasons. So ಆ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಗಳೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಇಂಟರ್ಪ್ರಿಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ, ಪೊಸಿಷನ್ಸ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹಳ ಮುಖ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದು ಕೂಡ ನಮಗೆ ಆರ್ಗ್ಯುಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ಗೆ ಸಹಾಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. The next one is writing skills are very important for doing research work. There are 4 varieties of writing skills which needed to be incorporated, which needed to be practiced by all the scholars. What are those? Interpretive writing. Based on the earlier researches and my research findings, I interpret something. Interpretive. Second one, comparative. I compare the things in my thesis. That so and so has got these kind of results and my results are contrary to that. So I can compare. Third one, argumentative writing. I can argue also why the earlier research findings are wrong and why my research findings are apt. And last one, descriptive. We can describe the things also. So different research topics require different writing skills, and sometimes in a single thesis you can use all those writing styles. At one point you can interpret, other point you can compare, you can argue or describe. So philosophy will help us how to do all those things. And definitely the philosophy will help the learner to be critical. Being critical is also very important in doing research work and creating. So this is what the image which will help us, how the philosophy is helping us. Philosophy can be used in developing the aim of your research. Philosophy will help us in finding the research questions, framing the research questions. And not only that, the philosophy will also help us in presuming what would happen. And the theoretical perspective, whatever we think, whatever we use, and whatever we apply are all based on the philosophies. Because I have to cite others' activities, others' views, others' opinions. If you are using any theory means, naturally that theory has been derived by one of the other scholar. If you are using his ideas means, it is nothing but a philosophy. Because you are giving credit to that person. You are giving credit to the earlier scientist who has done something on that. You know, scientists actually. Louis Pasteur is what I am doing is, I am citing his name because that is itself a ethical element. Pasteurization process anta bandaga namu nenaparade Louis Pasteur, right? What I am doing there, I am citing his name, I am using his name because it is his contribution to the world. So that is the theoretical perspective what I use. And even research design or any kind of a tool you are using for your research work or any experimentation you are conducting. So all those things have to be decided based on one or other ethical aspect. ಈಗ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ಗಳು ಬಳಸಲೇಬಾರದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. Earlier we could use rats and even calotus for the different experimentations. Now government has banned it. You should not use any animals. You should not harm any animals for your research work. So unless you take the permission from the higher authorities. If it is genuine, they permit you. That is also ethical element. And for some of the areas we cannot touch also. Even the orphan students who are studying in a different school, I cannot go directly to them and collect the data. No, which is not available, which is not possible also. It is against the ethics. I cannot use that child's perception, image, and I cannot share it with the normal people. Even with the transgender also. I can collect the information from them and directly without the notice or without bringing it to their notice, I cannot use that material or information or the finding with the normal people. So such sensibility must be there with the researcher. That's what the sensibility, the consciousness. So these are all the important values which a researcher must have for doing the research work. Next slide. This is a slide we can understand very easily. Three important philosophical branches we have. Last slide, I'll conclude. Metaphysics, epistemology, and axiology. Three important branches. Of course, fourth, fifth branch is there. We'll come to that actually. How best we use these branches in doing research? So, metaphysics is nothing but knowing the reality. It's a branch of philosophy which deals with the reality. What is the reality? Truth finding. When we start research work, our major intention would be finding the truth. So that's what the philosophy is, ontology or metaphysics. How to do it is gaining the knowledge. How to trace the knowledge. How to find the truth is nothing but epistemology. How to do it is a theoretical aspect. Through maybe methodology, methods and sources. And in between that actually, we will be having an element of axiology also. Axiology is nothing but study of values. So which means in all the spheres of research work, research stages, in one or other way, we are using philosophical branches. So the whole process of research is nothing but philosophy based or ethical based. Hence, UGC has made it very mandatory to understand what are the important aspects of ethical things or ethical norms where a researcher has to use it in different spheres of research work. Right from selection of the problem until the publication of thesis as well as the articles. So, in the next part, I am going to give you the detailed aspects of those branches. How best those branches will be helpful for us in understanding the philosophy. Okay? So now I stop here. We shall have a lunch break and probably at 2:30 it seems. As in the morning session we were discussing about the research aspects, ethics and how ethical elements can be utilized in different activities which we conduct in the research. Okay? So let me shift directly to the philosophy aspect because that's what my first unit is, which has been allotted to me to orient you on this. And a lot of things we have already discussed in relation to philosophy, how philosophical an individual would be and how philosophy would be used in different spheres of life, in different decisions which we make out. If you go and understand the etymological meaning of philosophy, it has been derived from two Greek words, philos and sophia. Philos means love and sophia means wisdom. In a simple term, we can consider philosophy as the love of wisdom. If you are philosophical means you are loving the wisdom. You are having the wisdom. You want to perceive it, you want to have it, you want to use it, your knowledge, your wisdom all the time. It is nothing but philosophy. And what we have to do in philosophy, if we have it, we will come to know the reality of the universe through philosophy. Philosophy is not just gaining the knowledge. Philosophy is not just accumulation of knowledge. Philosophy is not just doing some kind of a research, finding the truth. It is nothing but finding out what reality is. Then the question arises, what do you mean by reality? In the entire universe, we come across different perceptions, different situations, different illustrations, and we would like to understand those things in a minute manner by using our sense organs, by using our sensual abilities, by using our reasoning ability. So that is what philosophy is all about. And sometimes we come across a question like, what is the essence of this universe? Where it will go? If you think that there is a starting point of a universe, there must be an end point also. And when it will end? Stephen Hawking, you might have heard about him, you might have read about him. A great physicist, astronomist, Stephen Hawking, who talked about the black holes. He says there are millions of galaxies in the sky, in the universe. And in one of the galaxies, we are all living. Which means there may be n number of Earths. We don't know. We have traced them till yet. So if it is science research for truth and reality, it is based on the inquiry about life and existence. It is a logical approach. It is ever growing and developing. But till today, we are all participating in developing new knowledge, doing a lot of research, finding out of new solutions to the problems. So that all comes under philosophy and it answers the questions of life. What is the quality life? What is the immortality? What is friendship? What is a fruitful life? What is a happy life? These are all the questions the philosophy only can answer, no science can do that. Sometimes people ask you, are you happy? Science cannot answer that question, only philosophy can answer. Am I right? Yes. So, those kinds of abstract concepts, joyfulness, happy, contentness, all these things come under the philosophical nature of contentment. Next. And we have different functions of philosophy also. Philosophy has a lot of functions. Right from analytical function, we can analyze many things. Logically, we can derive many things through philosophy. Theoretical function also it does. There are a lot of theories in different disciplines. You take any discipline, you will be having number of theories. So theories are part of philosophy. Even thinking, how we think, how to understand, all comes under the functions of philosophy and even the knowledge. And one beauty thing is the last one, research function. Research function includes all those functions, earlier functions. If you want to do research, you need to be analytical, you need to be logical, you need to be theoretical as well. Thinking and knowledge are the basis of research. So hence UGC thought that philosophical bent of mind is very important for a researcher. It is not a biological, it is not a sociological, it is not just the research-based mind which is needed. So having philosophical sound knowledge is based on research. And we have few approaches also. Many of us will come under any one of the approach. Maybe mix. Some of you from ideology, idealism, and some of you from pragmatism, some of you from Marxism, naturalism, existentialism. Every philosophy is different. Idealism says that ideas rule the world. Because every one of us have many ideas. Immortality can be an idea. Truthfulness can be an idea. Rightness, virtuous can be an idea. So individuals differ in their ideals and hence ideals rule the world. And the idealism says that mind and matter are separate. They are not same. Mind is different, matter is different. But whereas realism, ವಾಸ್ತವವಾದ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ವಾಸ್ತವವಾಗಿ ಯಾವುದಿದೆಯೋ ಅದೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಕೂಡ ನಿಜವಾಗಿದೆ. Whatever the things which we perceive through sense organs is the real one. That's what the realism is. Atma Gita number, so they won't believe the soul God. Next, pragmatism. It is nothing but they propose that everything changes from time to time. Nothing is eternal. Pragmatist view ಏನು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಫಲ ಪ್ರಮಾಣದ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಯಾವುದು ಪರ್ಮನೆಂಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಈ ಪ್ರಪಂಚದಲ್ಲಿ. ಎಲ್ಲವೂ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. According to the time and situation, the things will change. That is pragmatism. Existentialism, it is nothing but whatever is real, that is existing. So that we can touch, feel, and perceive. That is the existentialism. Reconstructionism, we can reconstruct anything in the world. Anything can be reconstructed. So it will address in creating better society from time to time. We are affirmed that actually the earlier societies are, we are are more secular when compared to earlier studies. If you say, yes, that is reconstructive. Because every time the new construction will take place in the society or the mankind. And next, naturalism. They say nature is the supreme power. It can do anything. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಪಾಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆದಾಗ ಕೆಲವೊಮ್ಮೆ ನೇಚರೇ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಯಾಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲಿಸಮ್ ಫಿಲಾಸಫಿ. The nature will balance. If population is more, it will. Yes. ಸುನಾಮಿ ಬಂದಾಗ ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಸುನಾಮಿ ಹೊಡಿತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಜನ ಸತ್ತೋಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ. ನೇಚರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು? ಪಾಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿತ್ತು, ಕೋವಿಡ್ ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದು ಜನ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಂತೀವಿ. ಈ ಪಾಪ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ವಯಸ್ಸು ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. ನೇಚರ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋ ನಂಬಿಕೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೇಚರ್ ಇಸ್ ಗಾಡ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. Most of the people pray to sun and moon. Why? They feel that nature is supreme. Nature is God. And nature can take any action at any moment. Whatever thing is, we should follow the nature. That's all. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ನೇಚರ್ ಇವತ್ತು ಅಗೇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಹೋಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ. So that is also philosophy. And the last one is mass. Two groups. Always in any society we find two groups. Ullavaru, ullavaru. Okay? The people are very few and to hold the society always. Just like Adani and Apple. And there is a big mass in every society who will be controlled by few people. That's what Marxism is. So every philosophical approach is different. And we have to decide ourselves in which approach we come under. Are they naturalist or a realist or an idealist or existentialist? Where I fall or which philosophy I follow? But in our research work, one or other philosophy will be on. You take any kind of research, either science, social science, literature, you take any kind of research, either they are following any one of the philosophy or sometimes we may follow more than one philosophy also. And we believe in naturalism as well as idealism. So this is what the approach of philosophy. And philosophy and education, they are always interrelated. You cannot separate them. Most of the educationists and philosophers, they rightly mentioned that education is a dynamic side of philosophy. John Adams. Spencer, true education is practicable only by the true philosophy. So in every learning process, we follow philosophy. We send the children to the school because of philosophy. We train them because of philosophy. We conduct the classes because of philosophy. We examine them because of philosophy. So in every aspect, yes, we cannot separate the philosophy with the education. Philosophy and education are like the two sides of the same coin. John Ross. Theory, dialectics, practice. So theory is philosophy, practical aspect is education. And philosophy is the foundation to decide the goals of life. We are having our own goals of the life. Someone feel that they want to learn more. Some may feel that they want to be good with their family and friends. Some may feel that they want to serve to a great extent. Some may feel that they want to live after death also. See, what a kind of philosophy. How a person can live even after his death. Isn't it? We say many times, ಬದುಕಿರೋಸ್ತಂದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಬದುಕಿರಬಾರ್ದು, ಬದುಕಲು ಸತ್ತ ಮೇಲೂ ಬದುಕಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಕಾನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್, that is philosophy. So when it is possible when we contribute significantly to the society. Right? Some kind of contribution must be there. In any field today, we are remembering those educationists and philosophers still today because of their contribution. Physically they may be dead, but spiritually still they are with us. Understanding? This is the philosophy. So here also what we consider is whatever research work we do, whatever knowledge we contribute to the society, it should be contributed with a real sense. Not just for the sake of it. It is beyond that. So that spiritual nature of knowledge gaining, spiritual nature of conducting the activities must come into the picture of doing research work. Hence ethics and philosophy is required for research. And philosophy is the foundation. Okay, philosophy helps in clarifying the numerous educational issues and problems. Yes. Why students should follow teacher? Why teachers should respect students? Why students should respect teacher? It's all philosophy. It's all philosophy. Why we still bow our elders? Why can't we talk loudly in front of our elders? It's all philosophy. So that is what education is. It guides us. Okay? And great philosophers are also great educationists. You see the nature of philosophy. Why important nature characteristics are there actually? What kind of set of beliefs we have? They are uncritically detailed. Because everybody feels that my philosophy is different, your philosophy is different. Every time we say, if some contradictory things come, we naturally say that may be your philosophy, my philosophy is different. Because whatever the beliefs we have regarding life and universe, we often held uncritically. That is the nature of philosophy. Next. And philosophy is having two kinds actually. One is having philosophy and doing philosophy. I told you the one. Having means whatever philosophical elements or ethical elements I have is that is nothing but having. But how do I express it? How do I use it in the real sense? Is nothing but doing philosophy. But think that sometimes we may come across a situation where my philosophical thought may not match with your philosophical thought. In that case, a good person is one who has the open-mindedness in receiving others' views also, in analyzing his own views also, in commenting his own views also. Then only we can come to know the different knowledge aspects of others also. So which means, if we are philosophizing the things means, we should be able to respect others' philosophical views also. That is what research also does, that if somebody is telling something means, try to listen it first, try to cite it first, but cite it with great response. Cite it with great responsibility and giving due respect to that earlier person also. So that is what the philosophy is. So hence what we require is skills of argumentation is very important. Skills of argumentation. How best I am arguing? By giving due respect to my philosophy as well as others' philosophy. And techniques of analysis. How I am going to analyze it? Though my views are contrary to the others' views. And body of material appropriated such that we become able to think philosophy. So even understanding the earlier studies in terms of views is itself a philosophical task. I should understand not from my perspective, I should understand the other's findings with that person's perspective. Then I could be able to find the contrary things as well as the similarities. So which means giving due respect to the earliest views, whomsoever it is. So that is also the important feature of philosophy. The third one, it is a rational attempt to look at the world as a whole. I may be doing research in India and somebody may be doing research in Australia, but the world is one, universe is one. And whatever he is contributing, that will also be going to be useful to the entire universe. And whatever my findings will be there, that will be also going to use to the entire universe. So that is the important element we should understand by considering the world as one. Okay, ಯಾವ ಕುಟುಂಬ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಇಡೀ ಪ್ರಪಂಚನೇ ಒಂದು ಕುಟುಂಬ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಅಮೆರಿಕದವರು ಅಮೆರಿಕದಲ್ಲ ಅಣ್ಣ ತಮ್ಮಂದಿರು ಅಕ್ಕ ಇರಬೇಕು. That brotherly goodness must be there. Next. So logical analysis of language and clarification of meaning of words is also philosophy. So always philosophy tries to analyze the things according to the context, according to the perception of an individual, and hence the language we use in debating, the language we use in writing our thesis, the language we use in writing the articles must be in coherence with the tone of that particular content. Okay? So that kind of element must be there in the philosophical method. And the fifth one is, yes, as we talking since morning, that the philosophy helps us to solve number of problems. Because the intention of philosophy is to inquire the deepest problems. Now, what will happen after that? What happens? Everybody's philosophy is different. Satmel enacting a question. Hinduism philosophy is there, Christianity is there, Islam is there, Buddhism is there. See? Actually, if you want to find out something new, what will happen after that? That would be a new knowledge to the entire universe. And you will be a philosopher. Your finding would be new for a number of years. Isn't it? And these are the important questions, like what is truth? It is contextual. Again, very difficult to define. What is truth? Can you define it easily? Science concepts can be defined very easily. What is science? What is force? Isn't it? What is element? What is atom? Very easily. But what is truth? What is the distinction between right and wrong? Very difficult to define. And what is life and why are they? And even why is there anything at all? Why water is there? Why air is there? Why fire is there? Many of the times they haven't thought of these things, isn't it? Because no book has taught us, no examination question has made us to think. It's very easy to define the other person. It is very easy to write about another person. We can talk number of hours. It is very difficult to talk about us. Who am I is a big question in everyone's mind. And very hard to define, very hard to write about that. So that is the important thing of philosophy in terms of the nature, and few important things as I already mentioned. Yes, philosophy will help us to think carefully and clearly, take a step back, and we can go ahead with the philosophy. Analytical abilities can be improved over a period of time if you understand clearly what philosophy is, and we can construct and articulate the arguments in a proper manner with the right tone, and the philosophy will help us to think beyond our discipline. You may be doing research in science, we can think of social science also. You may be doing research in political science, we can think of psychology also. We can think of education also. So such interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary approaches. So every encompasses the philosophy. Okay? Hope you understood the concept. In a brief manner, I try to introduce the concept of philosophy and its branches in different streams. And if any questions are there, draw that one. Yes, sir.
There are some tips which pops up in my mind. So as you told that, there are certain questions the science cannot answer, but the philosophy will answer. So I have different idea. I do think that there are certain questions the science will answer, but the philosophy will not answer. For example, if I get sick, I will not do the philosopher, I will do the doctor. And the doctor will, what to say, the machine is going to test, so what is my disease? The philosopher, it means like, elephant in a dark room, because we could not find a clear answer. Second thing, in the area of research, so the science has a particular package for solving certain problems. Like data, first we can deeply consider or concentrate on collecting data, then we check the data into information, then we develop hypothesis, we test the hypothesis, the outcome will be theory for the justification of that, so we will go to the society and we'll see. And there are a number of scholars who have said that, or who have said that in 21st century, the area of philosophy has been replaced by science. It means philosophy dead, as Stephen Hawking, you might know him. And the second one, Thomas Cole. So also he says that it is not the area that we should focus much more on the philosophy. Because even in political science today, we need to use much more science. I don't mean that. I try to tell you that I ignore the importance of philosophy. I'm in the same page with you. But there are certain things that we will not have a clear answer for that. Even in the morning, you were giving very beautiful example about the ethics. See, something would be right for you and would be wrong for me. The traits that you have, so it might be suitable for you, it might not be suitable for me. And let me give a clear example to digest this. Right now, the issue of hijab is quite common in India. Maybe it could be, what to say, acceptable for a particular community and it would not be acceptable for the other community. Therefore, so it is too difficult to find the answer of these questions. Maybe the philosophy will be in science. This is my remarks.
Okay. So very gradually you ask a few of the important things. Which try to include in my presentation also. So what is philosophy? In the beginning only I told, philosophy is knowing the unknown things, finding out the truth. And you may claim that science is also doing that actually. Yes, but the thing is, to whom we are helping with finding out that truth is philosophy. You may be finding it true because of your science. To whom it is going to be helpful? It is going to be helpful to the entire universe. So that element of goodness, ethics is philosophy. So hence the reason why I say philosophy included all the subjects. It's a matter of all subjects. And few of the research scientists recently telling that actually in future there will not be a philosophical element, isn't it? Science may overcome the philosophy. But it's a question for all of us. Why I should answer it? Why I should answer it? It is a question for all of us to think, can science go beyond philosophy? Because since millions of years, the earth is in an evolutionary process. The whole universe is in an evolutionary process. If the things goes on like that, what would be the end? We don't know. Isn't it? But till the end, how individuals must be. Will be handled, will be dealt, will be supported by the principles. And those principles are not just because of science, it's because of the times. I may invent something new. I may invent a bomb, isn't it? But philosophy says that it should not be used for wrong reasons. Right? We should not kill other individual. It is not that which is telling the science, it is the philosophy. We should live not for ourselves, we should live it for others also. Actually. Whatever contributions I make it for the society also. So for the next generation also. So this concept, these things, principles will not be given by just science actually. These are the principles given by philosophical elements. So hence, that ethical element is important. The best example I quote, noble? Yes? Please remind me so that you can understand it easily. Yes. Alfred Nobel, what he invented? Which will be used for preparation of bombs, right? And those bombs were used in which World War? Second World War. He was a scientist, right? His knowledge, his invention was utilized by which country? Who won the Second World War? Second World War yaar kidhar hai? England, okay, America, and India was with England naturally, right? So after that war, Nobel decided that I made a wrong thing by inventing dynamite, which will be helpful for preparation of nuclear bombs. Then he realized that it is not just the science which is going to be helpful. So whoever contributes something great to the humanity, that individual must be recognized and honored with the amount whatever he got for preparing, inventing that dynamite. So that is what philosophy is. Same individual's example. He could have just denied it actually. He could have not introduced Nobel Prizes. The reason why he introduced is because of his guiltiness. He said it openly that whatever I invented, it was used for wrong reasons. So at least that amount would be utilized in future for the people in recognizing, in felicitating in terms of the Nobel Prizes, whoever contributes significantly for the development of mankind in different areas, in medicine, in chemistry, physics, isn't it? So that is what philosophy is. So wherever the science stops, the philosophy starts. The reason why philosophy has got wider scope. Unless and until the science reaches, the philosophy is still more forward it goes. Okay? So that is the reason. So these are all the questions which are really helping us to understand. What I mean to say is, of course, they are very good questions. You all think on those lines. It's a just spark which has been created in this session. At least you can go through the different resources. You can contact your senior professors to discuss in different platforms so that you can come across the solutions for those problems. Okay. So in related to research you ask, at least in your area, how does it can be used in maybe writing thesis, collection of data, writing reviews, isn't it? Or probably in the writing articles. Okay. That would be helpful for us. Ethics is a study of morality. And moral is a set of conducts or the norms prepared by the society or prepared by a group of institutions. Now UGC has decided to follow the set of rules for the research. So that is the ethical element and moral rights which needed to be applied in all the space of research activities. Fine. Yes. Yeah.
I'm from the Department of Political Science. My question is a spillover of what my friend has just said. Based on your lectures, I come to understand that philosophy is a kind of rational attempt to formulate, understand, and answer some fundamental questions. And it deals much with the
country, they use different set of philosophies. America's philosophy may be entirely different than the Sri Lankan philosophy. There are a number of aspects which come into the picture if you understand the philosophies. Their evolutionary process, the kind of religion they are following, the kind of education system they are having, the kind of set of governmental norms they are proposing will all come into the picture. So hence, in global way, there are few institutions which are really working to maintain a common standard, like WHO is there, UNESCO is there, but still there are a number of institutions and countries which are not working in favor of that. For showing, they are saying that yes, we are doing